last Wednesday night, I had the deep honor and privilege to visit a army base at a place called Sa'alim, in the south of Israel, literally a few miles, 10, 15 minutes from Rafah, the south of Gaza. And I met these young soldiers, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds. And I spoke for them. And we honored and celebrated together. I had to tell them that I'm embarrassed. I was embarrassed to stand before you, I said. You are the heroes. You are giants. I stand with humility and an awe, and you should see their exuberance, their vigilance, their commitment with joy. God forbid, who knows what will happen the next day when they enter into Rafah. And I spoke about that with them. You should have seen how they lined up afterwards. They wanted me to sign my book, Toward a Meaningful Life, a special edition of which we just published and printed in honor of the IDF, 50,000 books, and we're giving them out individually, including that evening. This was just this Wednesday. I'll never forget this experience. When you see people, and they're not doing it begrudgingly, on the contrary, you would not know the danger that they're placing themselves in. So this is what giving you a live report from the Holy Land, the Promised Land. I mean, what should I say? You walk the streets here. The streets are not just streets. These go back thousands of years. Who knows who walked exactly in those streets of Jerusalem on that very sacred ground. And it just brings to the fore this rich history, as well as the battles being fought and have been fought and are being fought as we speak. So, in that spirit, let me share with you a few thoughts. The Yom HaZikaron is one of the most sacred things we can do, is to remember. We remember those that were here before us. We remember their sacrifices, the prices they paid. We remember their legacies. We remember their commitment. Not just to remember, but also to channel and to learn from it as an example that inspires us to do what is right. We're living in historic times. And I've said this a number of times in my programs and videos. Historic times. There is actually a battle of right and wrong and good and evil going on. Not to suggest that some people are totally evil and some people are totally good. But when you can have that ambiguity after a genocide, after the brutal atrocities perpetrated, and what we know, I was writing with the person who wrote us down to the Gaza area. He's a long-time Israeli. He's been a driver. He's been around. He says to me, whatever you've heard is far worse. So when you hear that, and all the justifications, listen, we, the Jewish people, were murdered, were massacred, worst, most brutal fashion, most dehumanized fashion during the Holocaust. But we still never saw that as an excuse to saying we're so grieved that we're now going to do exactly that to our tormentors. It just never rose in our minds. On the contrary, the greatest revenge of a healthy person is to build their lives. We're not identified and we're not defined by our enemies. So we are really dealing with a real moment of truth of the issue of what is right, what is wrong. Moral clarity is what it's called, which does not leave room for any ambiguity. Certain things are just lines you never cross. So here, as I walk and I see the people and I talk to individuals, I see it come alive in the most glaring fashion. And then when you hear the contrast, these soldiers, they're not even aware to most extent. They're not, for more or less, I would say most of them are not even aware of what's going on in the campuses and the universities of the United States. They're not aware of the politics, and they frankly don't even care. They are busy fighting a life and death battle of what is right and what is wrong, and the protection of innocent citizens. I cannot tell you how unfathomable it is that we keep forgetting the plot. Hamas and their cohorts, in the most savage fashion, attacked innocent people. There's a very simple way to stop this whole battle. A ceasefire. You know how that is? You surrender, you return the hostages unscathed, untouched, and you extract in every possible way from your constitution the call for the genocide of the Jewish people from river to sea in Israel. A few hours earlier, I went to the Kotel, which was closed off because they had this big ceremony tonight. But just watching it, and I see the history, the wall standing there, a wall that's standing almost 2,000 years, if not more. And you see the mosques, and you see the Christian quarter, and of course there's the Armenian quarter, the Muslim quarter. And I think to myself, what lies within this small area in the world? And it comes to mind what Jacob said when he woke up after he fell asleep on the Temple Mount, Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. He says, Ashara Shamayim, this is a gate to heaven. We're dealing with a portal, an interface between heaven and earth. And the major religions have been fighting over it for who knows how many years. But it all goes back to the Bible. And the Bible rings true because you see real-time wars being fought. And make no mistake about it, this is a religious war. This is not a war of some little piece of land or some resources or power or influence. It's a religious war. Who did God choose to give this land to? And as long as the Jewish people control the land of Israel, its enemies cannot accept that because they see that as sacrilegious. They see that as a defilement of what they think belongs to them. So this is not a matter of compromise, this is a matter of every inch. And on the other hand, you read the biblical stories of yourself. 1 second here. Why is that not just a given? And it brings to mind what I've mentioned not many times, and I've said it to the soldiers as well. At night I said to them, I said, look, it says in the Medrash says something very fascinating. It says like this, that if the nations of the world knew the blessings that they received from the Holy Land and from the Jewish people and from Jerusalem and from the Holy Temple, instead of attacking it, they would surround it with legions to protect it from any enemy. So this is a place of blessings. When the Bible says, those that bless you shall be blessed. That is the ultimate battle here, which is perhaps the reason why, as we call the miner's canary, every time the Jews are attacked, wherever they may be, not much after that begins attack on other people, on other minorities, on other individuals. The lightning rod of history. So all this comes to mind, and it's even hard to capture in words when you walk the paths of this promised land. So my report from the Holy Land, I share with you great optimism that despite the fact that we're dealing with challenges, and yes, unfortunately, bloodshed and deaths of innocent people, I see, when I look out at the hills and the valleys, traveling north and south in the promised land, I see the future. I see the vision of the prophets, the biblical prophets, the vision of Moses, the vision of God himself, that this is a land that will bring blessing to the world. You see how much it dominates. And the blessing is that it'll teach the world that ultimately we have a job to do, to spiritualize this material world and to teach every human being on earth that you were created in the divine image. And this is Jews and Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and atheists and agnostics and everything over and under and in between. This theme, this message, was once only the vision of one man and one woman, Abraham and Sarah. But it became, over the years, it took time. It took thousands of years that it became the standard of what we call freedom today, what we call human rights. And therefore, no question that it will continue to spread. The religions that have abused and misused and misunderstood this message and have in turn used it and weaponized it, the form of violence, will be tamed. The Christian people, the Christians were for years, for centuries, aggressors and tried to force their faith on others by the sword, the Crusaders, the Inquisition, and so on. And the Muslims, not all, but many, and many are sympathetic, feel the need that has to be done with aggression. All that will be eliminated. This is what I see. I see the pride. I look at those soldiers' faces. I look at the Jewish people in Israel. It's a miracle. I mean, I was just thinking about it. I'm walking the streets of Jerusalem. If you didn't know it, you wouldn't know there was a war going on. How's that possible in a country that's smaller than the size of New Jersey? In the United States, something like this would happen. There'd be 300 drones and missiles shot at the United States. The whole country would shut down. Thank God we're blessed to be protected from that. But in Israel, life goes on. And not in a complacent way. Everyone knows what's happening. But there's a certain, I will say, resilience and certain immunization that, yes, we must fight the war, but we are not going to allow it to define us. So there's a real living miracle going on as we speak. And many great soldiers have fallen for the sake of protecting others, for the sake of protecting Israel. And we honor that in this Yom HaZikaron, in this Memorial Day. But we also look at the way we honor their memory is by continuing on with fortitude and courage and strength and confidence in our moral vision. This is not about playing defense. It's about the best defense being offense. And that offense is that we have a vision of light, a vision of love, a vision of total coexistence, of discovering the harmony within diversity that every human being on this earth created in the divine image. Unfortunately, when there are bad players and out there, you have to do what it takes to protect ourselves. We know that from World War II, from previous wars. It's not because we like to kill the enemy. It's because we have no choice. They're a threat. They're a threat to the very welfare of the human race. What is going on in the United States on the campuses is a travesty that, at the end of the day, I still believe in the positive side of it, which is it's revealing people's faces. Let them expose themselves. Let the universities have to now deal on their boards with what they have demonstrated, the discrimination, the exact opposite, the antithesis of everything an academic university should stand for. I speak to men and women that I'm meeting here in Israel. There's this, the word is that this absolute unwavering commitment and belief that we shall prevail as we have always prevailed. So, my friends, my warm regards coming from the Holy Land and Promised Land. It's so powerful to see. It's an inspiration. These soldiers that I met, I mean, what can I tell you? They are unbelievable, unbelievable. Their commitment, and it's like seamless, And I contrast that to the young men and women who are protesting on the campuses. What do they stand for? What prices have they paid? They don't even know what they're fighting for. Most people in America are so complacent, lethargic when it comes to values. I mean, it's astounding to see that contrast, but it's very inspiring. And God should bless that also these soldiers and the ones that came before them that did fall, that there should no longer be any losses and no more casualties. Families that have been shattered should only be consoled and comforted to know that their children who fell in the previous wars and previous losses, including in this one since October 7th, have done the greatest possible thing. They've sanctified God's name. They've sanctified and brought sanctity to this world, fighting for the good cause. And wherever we may be, let me tell you this, the blessings that Israel will bring to the world will continue to grow, and we need to appreciate it. Each in our own way, in our sphere of influence, need to spread that word. A light unto nations, a light unto the world, a light that the export is not startup nation of technology and financial vehicles, but rather the message that from Zion, from Jerusalem comes the great divine light of clarity of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be a divine human being created in the divine image, living up to the best possible way that a human being can be. And I have, as I say, I've been literally transformed when I see and hear this. And here I am on this Yom HaZikaron, which leads to the Independence Day of Israel, that even though Israel goes back long before 1948, we're going back thousands of years, and yet there are in modern times miracles and events that have happened that brought this country to life, that brought his people to life. May that continue to be blessed and to bring more light and more inspiration to us all. It's a beautiful expression that it says in the Medrash that in the future, Israel will spread all over the world. And that's not in a matter of conquest. The spirit of Eretz Yisrael, which is the spirit of transforming the material into a spiritual environment, will spread all over the world. And that will become the standard of what we all look forward to. So at the end of the day, despite the pain, despite the losses, there's such beautiful things to report. And this is my short dispatch from the Promised Land, from the Holy Land. I hope each of you are well and be blessed, have much joy and much nachas and much blessings from your own self, from your families, and everywhere in the world, good people should continue to flourish. And we should finally see the day when all evil and all destruction will be eradicated from this world. As the prophet Isaiah says, where the wolf will lie with the lamb, and there will be peace in this world, a world filled with divine knowledge as the waters cover the sea. So again, warm regards from the Holy Land. I will bring back this energy to wherever I go, try to share it with others, and I hope you share it as well. So, to sum up again, this tremendous inspiration of a blessed country, a promised land, promised to us all, that brings promises and blessings to every human being on earth, not just to the Jewish people, but by extension to everyone. And that is the ultimate goal that we all are looking to achieve. So be blessed, everyone. See you soon as I return. God, of course, has his plans as I return to the country called the United States of America. Continue to bring this message and the spirit of the promised and holy land. Everyone be well. This has been Simon Jacobson speaking from the Holy Land, from Eretz Yisrael Live. And please share this. Subscribe to our offerings. Subscribe to this our YouTube channel. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, your comments. And may God bless you. May God bless America. May God bless Israel. May God bless every human being on this earth. And may God bless the cause of ultimately the one that Abraham brought to this world, virtue, justice, and yes, that every human being has the right to be who they are and serve God as they see fit, the harmony within diversity. Be blessed and be well. Thank you so much.